when this car launched, the Velocity option was over 50 grand worth. And the majority of that was the MSO paint stage.
Content.
Right. So we're going to try and recreate, or in fact, enhance a 50 grand paint job in-house on our own 720. And thanks to you, we're going to Velocity Plus it. That's the challenge.
We put exhaust on everything. R8s, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, you name it.
Oh my God!
That is something else.
All right, welcome back to Logic. Today is the deep dive explanation to the final spec of the 720S paint that we've landed on. And it's actually all in thanks to a lot of you guys. So let's go in. It's not simple, is it?
No. So we've got quite a few different panels here talking about all things paint, the process start to finish, what the actual colour of the paint is going to be, why it is the way it is, start, finish, ends.
Overruling feedback here, and what sort of sealed it actually was when we had a sort of open day effectively at the bunker a few weeks ago. A lot of audience came down, saw the car in reality in person, and were like, why are you even contemplating spraying this thing? Even though it is a temporary paint that you can remove, the overriding thing was Velocity car looks incredible. So the idea of the game, thanks to you, is we're going to go Velocity Plus. We're taking Velocity and turning it up to 11 and integrating the carbon Vorsteiner kit as well, which means Tinted Carbon, sir.
Which means Tinted Carbon, which means that, we are going full send on this project. So Velocity spec is a Norello paint, which the car already has, and then that is combined with McLaren Volcano Red. So one end of the car is Norello and the other end of the car is Volcano Red with some pieces, different colours throughout the car. Now, great idea, great concept. However, we feel that we can integrate the two colours a little bit better.
Well, I'll take one for the team here. I was really fortunate to be at the launch of the McLaren 720S at Geneva. We're back in 2017 now. And in the sort of, I guess, VIP area in the back, well, for some reason they didn't unveil this front of house, but they unveiled this MSO car, which we now know as the Velocity Edition car. And the star of the feature on that car was this graded paint, and the theory was that it went from a dark color and had this gradual fade to a sort of ultra bright volcano red at the back. The reality of it is the execution in my eyes wasn't good.
It wasn't good.
It had like sort of block panels at the back, or it just went black. I was like, well, they sort of began this fade at the front, and they were just like,
So the original car had a fade on the wing. So literally, you have Norello at the front of the wing, and you have Volcano red at the back of the wing. But there wasn't really a fade.
No.
It was literally start, finish, and as we call it, like a flick into the colour, and that was it. So you kind of get almost a black and a white kind of contrast where it was just, and then the bottom of the car, they'd obviously kept the Norello, and the top of the car, the painted Volcano, no gradual fade or whatever. So
that to me was the strangest part. It was like beautiful Volcano red on the top of the rear wings and haunches, and then just this like black panel under.
Correct. However, what we are doing is we are going from Norello at the front all the way to Velocity Red at the back. Volcano is done very differently, so it's a reverse. So normally you start with a dark ground coat and you have a pearl coat, and the more coats you put on, the pearlier it gets, the lighter it gets, the more metallic it gets, the fancier it gets. Volcano starts with the metallic as the ground coat.
Oh wow, look at that.
So as you could probably see, so I'm gonna just like turn that around a little bit so you can see.
That's gorgeous.
So that's the first coat that goes down. It's not normal, but it does add kind of like a translucent, candy, kind of flippy kind of paint. And then what we do then is put a solid red colour over the top of it. Now, the reason it's done like this, so no metallic, completely solid colour, flat red.
Super primary, deep red.
So the reason why we do this, the more top coat, the second layer of the dark red you put on, the darker the colour gets. So these are the two same colours.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's 2 coats of top coat.
Right.
That's 6 coats of top coat. So each coat darkens the colour. So this is Norello.
It's actually a massive shift, isn't it? It's huge.
It's not,
if we're thinking that this is the back and this is the front,
it really is.
You'd say it was a different car.
So different.
So the challenge here is to get the most satisfying gradient we can, so it doesn't look like the cut and shut that it was.
Correct.
Sorry, McLaren. You just didn't hit the mark first time round.
and that is very hard. Honestly, I mean, when you get to...
What's hard? What's difficult? What's difficult? What's one of those jobs when someone phones up and goes...
Nothing.
Go on.
The hardest colour to paint.
Yeah, hardest colour to paint.
Which you won't believe I'm about to say.
Go on.
White.
That's such an anticlimax.
White.
White.
White is the hardest colour to paint. Now, I'll tell you why. If I have a car that's already in white and the customer just wants to repaint it for whatever reason, that is the hardest colour to paint. If I was to paint white from start to finish, no issues, not so bad. White has the most shades of any colour that you can think of. The second hardest colour, which is probably on par to be fair with white, is silver. Here's your Vorsteiner wing. And again, this is just the very start of the process, so it's not the finished product or article, but you can see we now have red tinted carbon.
This is blowing my mind because the amount of times that I have, quite frankly, had my pants down with at least a quote on tinted carbon, to say that we have the ability to do this in-house makes my smile glands twitch.
It is
so sick
something
having
very,
this
very
here.
special. So I'm going to explain how.
So at this stage, obviously this isn't finished.
No.
Because there is some orange peel in it.
Yeah, we always flatten re-lacquer panels so that we get that perfectly crystal finish.
Yeah.
We add thickness every time we add lacquer, we add more protection every time we add lacquer. So, but if you flatted the lacquer with the red tint in, you would then flat the red tint away.
I see, okay.
You have to put a clear lacquer
barrier
on top.
on it, effectively.
Correct.
Right.
So
okay.
this has had that. Now we'll then flat the whole wing and then re-lacquer and clear, so it'll pop
flush
out a lot more. That is definitely red carbon. So we've left a little piece here in the original natural state colour carbon. Done that for a reason that we're going to do something very intricate and fancy around here. I'm not going to explain that, we'll leave that to the next video. But it looks quite rough for how we've done it and we've left it, but that is for a reason. So we can say that this is going to have colour on the wing, and it's going to have exposed, and it's going to have natural state carbon. That's all I will say, but I think we'll leave the rest.
LSO.
This is.
So that's a Vorsteiner wing. That's not the standard 720 wing. And this is the fully exposed Vorsteiner carbon bonnet, which is also having the same treatment to match the wing at the rear.
Absolutely. Now, what we've got to do here is the full exposed carbon bonnet. We want it red. However, the front of the car has to match the bumper, because this panel here
meets the bumper.
Meets the bumper. We'll then flat, as I've done here, the bonnet down. We'll then mask an area such as this one here, and all of this will then be painted in Nerello.
Wow.
To match the bumper and the wings.
We haven't mentioned that all of these processes are removable, but we're reluctant to call it peelable paint because when people hear the words peelable, they think of it as like a vinyl or a wrap.
They think of a vinyl, a wrap, a plastic dip, they think about it something else,
something else.
This beautiful product
It is paint, it is clear coat, it is tinted. It just goes down onto Logic's removable membrane first.
Peelable membrane.
Hence, at the beginning of this, Cameron's showing you spray bottles, effectively, mixing actual paints, pigments, pearls. It's not a wrap, it's not a vinyl. I think it should just be referred to as Logic Paint, which has its own USPs.
Spent countless hours trying it out and getting it to the quality that it can go on the cars that we've done. So we do it very different to others, and I think that's why we should actually call it Logic Paint. This bonnet started off like that, which is your wing mirror. So that is obviously normal carbon.
Which is also going tinted,
Which is also going tinted, So,
super cool.
So that'll look really, really smart.
I think actually, you hit the nail on the head. That's one of the best examples of how it isn't a wrap or a vinyl or a dip or any other thing. It is paint.
You could never do that. We've sanded the clear coat. So when you flatten polish cars, you sand the top coat layer and you polish. We've sanded this and we'll actually re-lacquer over this now so that we can do the painted panel. Here you have a Volcano red panel that was in the booth that we saw. That's now been flatted all down, ready to be polished. But as you can see, it all gets completely flatted. You can see it's not been flatted there. The orange peel gets taken out of it. That's how we do it, so that we have that perfect glass finish.
Yeah, try taking a sander to a wrap, you'll see the difference.
So we completely sand it down. We remove all this distortion in the clear coat here. These peaks and troughs, as they're called. We'll then flat that with another finer grade and polish it. So we've gone right through the process of making this look perfect.
Okay, so anyone who is wondering what this car is, we're talking about. This is it. This is the progress of our 720S, soon to be Velocity Plus edition car. The big feature here is while we're in with Logic having the paint job done, it was a convenient time for them to also fit the exhaust for us. Now we've had a Rift exhaust system, which is designed, manufactured and amplified in Las Vegas, which will give you an idea as to the characteristics of this thing. I think it's going to be true to the ethos of this car. It's just 11, just one step more, and new wheels. And that as well, we're not going to show these just yet, but the style, I remember when the Velocity Edition launched, it's a kind of tip of the hat in the direction of that style of wheel. But these are also Vorsteiner wheels.
Vorsteiner wheels to go with the Vorsteiner kit. So you've pretty much done everything on this car.
Yeah, it'll be good. And I think it's nice using the same brand. Like Vorsteiner's done all of the external parts, and these should suit well.
What I quite like is that the car's also retaining the McLaren paint. So Norello was a very expensive option. We're keeping that, we're making it better, but also putting Velocity Volcano red. So McLaren paint still, Vorsteiner body kit wheels. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.